All right, big June 2nd for the 49ers in the NFC race. But first, look at this. This is what we call the missing piece. Yes, that's Bryce Huff steamrolling Storm Norton, poor right tackle of the Falcons, and then working with the hands against Garrett Bowles. I think we got to go to slow motion. The steamrolling of Storm Norton, a 6'7" tackle. You know, the thing about Bryce Huff, you see 255 and you think, okay, speed rusher, lighter, obviously. There's a lot of power in these moves. And obviously some technique. Nick Bosa is going to like this. Crosses one way to knock Bowles off balance. And Garrett Bowles is one of the better left tackles in the league. Bryce Huff then steamrolls Russell Wilson legally. Legally, that's important to say. One more time, back to the Storm Norton run over. I mean, again, real power here from the 49ers new edge rusher. And when we talk about completing a football team, completing a defensive line, the 49ers have been looking for this kind of bookend to Nick Bosa for a while. I'm going to say this. There are ceilings and there are floors to every move in the NFL. The floor of this move is that the 49ers have an ineffective pass rusher, but they paid $7.95 million for him versus the Eagles. They had an ineffective Bryce Huff who didn't fit their system. He cost them $25 million. That's how much the Eagles are going to have to eat after this is all said and done. So, yes, it would be something that wasn't particularly efficient for the 49ers, but it wouldn't be something that breaks the bank. The ceiling for this Bryce Huff move is he delivers the way that he did back in 2023, the last time he played for Robert Saleh, the way that he played in the clips that I just played you. And that's number one in the NFL in pressure rate. That's 10 sacks of production. And the 49ers get that for $7.95 million. Remember, the Eagles were willing to pay a total of $25 million guaranteed to Bryce Huff to switch systems without the assurance that he would fit in their new system, and he didn't. The 49ers are going to be paying less than $8 million for Bryce Huff to play in a system in which he has already succeeded. And, you know, one more time on these clips, the fact that this guy plays with such power, I think, is revelatory because you usually expect speed rushers to just go around the hoop, to bend the edge. And I'm sure that we'll see Bryce Huff do that plenty because he does that on tape for the Jets. But when I turned on all 10 of the sacks and a lot of his pressures in that season for 2023 for Robert Saleh, I was astounded by how much speed to power we saw for Bryce Huff. The speed, and it's best exemplified by the time that he absolutely trampled Storm Norton. So the 49ers are going to have this on the other side of Nick Bosa. Again, this is a very specialized role. I don't think that Bryce Huff is going to play more than 35% of snaps if the 49ers have it their way. I think you're going to have Michael Williams on the edge opposite Bosa for those base downs. I think that Michael Williams is going to kick inside on some of those passing downs. I think a player that people aren't talking enough about is Yetur Gross-Matos. It is my understanding that Yetur has looked really good for the 49ers this spring. Now, we didn't get a chance to see him at practice the other day because a baby boy was born into Gross-Matos' family. So congratulations to him. He'll be back out at practice this week. Another big week for the 49ers at OTAs. And I think Yetur and Michael Williams are going to be the 49ers' two interior rushers in that NASCAR package that's going to have some power on the outside with Bryce Huff. So fascinating stuff. All right, busy day around the rest of the NFL. First off, I think in summary, good day for the 49ers because they're trying to win an NFC championship again. I think they're firm contenders again. And you look at the fact that the Lions have seen their center, Frank Ragnow, retire. This is one of the best centers in all of football. And this might be shocking to some people because the media doesn't often portray things objectively or in a fair way. But I think that it's absolutely objective and fair to say that from a functional standpoint, the Detroit Lions have lost more than the 49ers this offseason, because most of the 49ers losses have come on the defensive side of the ball, where performance quite literally cannot get worse than it was last year. The 49ers are going to see some true performance addition by personnel subtraction on the defensive side of the ball. That's the whole point of the remake of the defensive line to the NFL draft, because they had such a bad run defense last year. They just have to make that better. So they had to let some guys go, and they're going to be younger, hungrier, more enthusiastic. I think that it's safe to bet on the 49ers being better in 2025. However, with the Lions, between the loss now of Frank Ragnow and the loss of their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who's now the head coach of the Chicago Bears, that's 2/3 of the brain battery offensively. Your play caller, your center, and then obviously Jared Goff, the quarterback, is back. But if you think Jared Goff is in any way a system guy, and I think a lot of people think he's a system guy, doesn't have the escapability of somebody like a Brock Purdy, it's really going to be put to the test this year, because the system is not going to have its main architect in Ben Johnson, and centers who are responsible of taking so much off the quarterback's shoulders at the line of scrimmage. Frank Ragnow, at only age 29, has decided to retire. Now, I know that Detroit has made a draft selection. I know that they're likely going to plug a rookie in at some point to their offensive line, but as we know, that center position carries a big-time cerebral load, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This hurts the Detroit Lions to lose their 29-year-old center. This is one of the best offensive lines in all football, losing a very, very important piece at the very, very fulcrum. Let's hear from Christian McCaffrey. Remember, he was on the Madden cover last year? Well, the Madden cover has changed hands here in 2025.
Saquon, congrats, man. Madden 26 for number 26. It's my honor to be passing down the Madden cover to you. Keeping it within the running back family. We got to keep it that way. So fired up for you, man. You've been pushing the standard since college, and to see all your success is no shock to me. So congrats, man. Enjoy it, and hope to see you soon.
So that's Christian passing the torch on to Saquon Barkley. And I have to say that although Christian didn't say this out loud, it might be a, hey, here, you can have it situation. You take it. Fans love to talk about the Madden curse. It's afflicted the 49ers, if you believe in it, a couple times now. Garrison Hurst was on the cover of Madden before he snapped his ankle back in the day. That was the year that the 49ers actually beat the Packers in the wild card round with the catch 2 from Terrell Owens, but then they lost to the Atlanta Falcons by 2 points after Garrison Hurst broke his ankle on the very first play. That was a Madden cover season for Garrison Hurst. And obviously last year, 49ers were blindsided. Christian McCaffrey was blindsided. The Achilles tendonitis came out of nowhere. Now, I'm not particularly a believer in the Madden curse. I do think that there are logical explanations for why guys seem to get hurt a little bit more often, or are unproductive a little bit more often after they are on the cover of the video game, because you're typically not going to be on the cover if you're an under the radar player who's missing the playoffs, who has low mileage during the regular season. High mileage guys typically get on the Madden cover, and when there's higher mileage, there's probably a higher chance of injuries. That's obviously something that seemed to hold true with Christian McCaffrey, and we'll see. We wish the best to Saquon Barkley, but the Eagles are on the Madden cover this year. And when you look at larger NFL news, I think it's illustrative of the fact that it's hard to stay on top. It's hard to maintain A-list status and perform at that A-list level in this league. The 49ers learned that the hard way in 2024. We'll see if the Eagles learn that here in 2025. The Lions, I think, definitely are learning the hard way right now. The brain drain, they also lost their defensive coordinator, but the brain drain is going to affect them. Retirement is going to affect them with Frank Ragnow, and they are one of the 49ers' NFC rivals in this 2025 season.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're good, man. We're good. We'd love to hear your analysis of the Bryce Huff move. When it went down, kind of like, what was your first reaction?
That was the guy that seemed like an obvious fit for a long time, but I just couldn't get over the money part. because he was owed $17 million. It was fully guaranteed this year. So I thought that might make it challenging. I thought that it was really cool that two of the best front offices in football were able to figure out a cost split that made sense. And the 49ers and the Eagles really are probably the two most forward-thinking front offices when it comes to how to manage the salary cap, and they understand cost efficiency. They're the two teams that most aggressively use all these void years to keep cap hits down, and they take on dead money on purpose, and it confuses a lot of people, but it's actually really smart because they're just kind of surfing the wave of the rising salary cap. So that both of these teams are kind of setting the standard for the league financially. So I thought it was really neat that they executed a trade where they found the right cost split. The Eagles pay $9.05 million and the 49ers pay $7.95 million. And it seems really fair to me. Like, the Eagles obviously made a mistake in signing a guy that doesn't fit their system, but they don't have to eat all $17 million this year. It's still an expensive mistake. They're going to end up paying Bryce Huff $25 million for one really ineffective season. But the 49ers get somebody who was, the NFL leader in pressure rate under Robert Saleh just 2 years ago. And even if he doesn't work out, they're only paying $7.95 million for him this year, which is not nothing, but it's definitely, I think, worth the swing, worth the ceiling, right? So it seems to be a move that makes sense for both sides. Obviously, the 49ers coming at this from a winning angle, and the Eagles are just trying to salvage something, but it makes perfect sense given the history with Robert Saleh, who, by the way, has compared Bryce Huff to Mariano Rivera before. So, I mean, Robert Saleh loves this guy, and I think that Robert is having a lot of influence on who the 49ers pick, and given his track record, even in New York, they had top three defenses. And obviously, what he did with the 49ers, you've got to trust what Robert Saleh brings to the table. He knows how to build a defense.
David, I know we're still waiting for the exact details of the trade package, but is there any insight about the draft capital that the 49ers are sending over to Philadelphia? And then above that, the salary cap implications, not just for this season, but moving forward with Bryce Huff?
It's a day 3 pick, so mid-round, but I don't know exactly where, but it's not mid-round as in round 3. It's going to be rounds 4 to 7, so we'll see exactly where that's at. There might be a conditional tag on it, which is why we don't know yet. It might depend on how Bryce performs for the 49ers. Sometimes you put a sack number total on there, and then you see if he hits it or not. The 49ers, this is another big plus for the 49ers. They get two years of team control here. So 2025 is the only year with guaranteed money. 2026 is a team option that they have to pick up by March 15th, and it's about $15 million. So if Bryce Huff say that this hits the ceiling and he performs the way that he did the last time he was with Saleh in the system for the Jets in 2023, and he has 10 sacks, $15 million is a no-brainer. In fact, you probably would face a contract situation with him next year to where he'd probably want more, entering a lame duck year. But that's a problem that you would love to have if you're the 49ers, right? Because if he doesn't perform, if this is a repeat of last year, if for whatever reason he's just fizzled out of the NFL level altogether, nothing's guaranteed past this year. So you just, you let him go after this season, paid him $7.95 million, and it didn't work out, and it didn't break the bank.
Talking to David Lombardi, the SF Standard, explaining the details of the Bryce Huff move, which seems to be sort of financially split for both teams, and the draft compensation, as he says, likely between 4 and 7, but could be contingent on playing time. We'll continue to follow that. So maybe a good deal for both teams, maybe a win-win. I'm looking at the list of players that they've had trying to be out there to help Nick Bosa. Just a short list here. You go Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, Kentavious Street, Kerry Hyder, Drake Jackson, Jordan Willis, D. Ford, Clee Furl, Leonard Floyd, Chase Young. Does it seem like an endless? It's almost like we compared it to the Giants' search for a left fielder since Bonds. What do you make of that search?
And really only one of those guys was a true third down pass rush specialist, and that was D. Ford. And then the injury issues happened. But when D was healthy and they had a true third down speed rush specialist that would just come in for those big money down situations, this pass rush was awesome. Now, Leonard Floyd, he was about as light as D. Ford, and you could argue that should have been the extent of his role, but they needed him to be more of a 3-down player last year. And that was the bigger problem for the 49ers, is that they didn't have a chance to rush the passer with leverage the way that they need to, because the run defense was so bad, right? So what they did over the draft this year was focus on run defenders. Like Michael Williams, that's an edge setter. They think he's the best edge setter coming out of the 2025 rookie class. CJ West, one technique. I mean, look at that guy. He's one of the premier run defenders in college football. He transformed Indiana's run defense, helped them to the college football playoff. And Alfred Collins, that's a pillar of granite. That guy's huge and also really good against the run. So they spent the draft working on the run defense. And then that one piece that they needed, and it's, it hasn't really been a position of the guys that you just named, that the whole list of guys the 49ers cycled through, because a lot of those guys were doing a bunch of different stuff. But that one piece that they needed as a cherry on top to building the fortification of that run defense was the edge rushing specialist that's going to come in that lightning package. It's like a NASCAR package on third down, and it's Bryce Huff. So for the first time since D Ford, they've got a truly dedicated guy for that role.
David, do we know if Bryce Huff is in town yet? Are there any expectations of being on the practice field for OTAs this week?
Well, the trade can be finalized today, so I would expect him to be in town today. And they actually moved the public practice back a day this week from Tuesday to Wednesday. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but so I'll be down there tomorrow. We're interviewing all the assistant coaches. I'm sure we'll get good insight from them. And then the 49ers will be on the practice field on Wednesday. And why not? I mean, the trade, again, the Eagles had to wait until post June 1st for the salary cap hits to be smoothed out on their side. So they could finally pull the trigger on it today, but I wouldn't be shocked if Bryce Huff already flew to the Bay Area earlier, just knowing that it was procedural at this point.
David Lombardi, the SF Standard, talking to us about the Bryce Huff addition, the third down speed edge rusher the 49ers hope can bookend Nick Bosa. Other things from the first few days of OTAs, David, everybody wants to know how Christian McCaffrey looked. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Everybody sees something different. What did you see?
Well, I think that almost everybody saw what I did, and that's that Christian McCaffrey looked bouncy. I think John Lynch came on KMBR the next day. I don't know if he reads the Standard, but he used the word in my headline. He said bouncy, but I'm not accusing him of plagiarism. I think that when you watch Christian McCaffrey, it looked like he was running on a trampoline. Like there was this bounciness to him that he didn't have last year, all the way up until the Buffalo game. I thought that he was still working back. If there was the Tampa Bay game, then there was the Seattle game, then the Green Bay game. Yeah, so there was 3 games, and then there was the Buffalo game. And the first 3, it was still a little sketchy. You could tell that he was working himself back into form. I don't think the Achilles was fully back and ready to go, and his conditioning wasn't back and ready to go until the first quarter of that Buffalo game, where he just looked springy, even in the snow. And then he got tripped up by the shoestring, and he hurt his knee. The knee slammed into the turf there, and we didn't see him anymore. So we only saw a very, very brief glimpse of the old Christian McCaffrey last year, and I think now we saw it on that practice field. He does look way, way different than the majority of last season, when he was obviously coming off the Achilles injury. So I'm sure he's motivated too, and rest has been huge. A lot of these guys, you almost feel that they're working so hard. They play these 20-game seasons because the 49ers went so deep in the playoff runs, and then how hard Christian works in the offseason. So you just imagine the mileage that he puts on those legs. The fact that he was able to step back, never saying an injury is a good thing, but he was able to step back when he got hurt the second time and be like, okay, wait, let's make sure everything is rested, ready to go. I think he's been able to get all his ducks in a row, and you can tell now when you see him on the practice field.
Yeah, David, we were having some fun last week going back and forth with the back and forth reports about Christian McCaffrey and whether or not he looked bouncy or springy or not. But, David, I got to say, there might not be a beat reporter on the beat that's more bouncy and springy than you are, because I saw you did the Escape from Alcatraz swim before going down to cover a 49ers OTA. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, we're working on a cool little project for the San Francisco Standard. So I wasn't actually doing the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon. It was just me swimming. So I don't know if that's better or worse, if there's any wildlife interested. But Well, I had a boat following me, so it was good. But right before heading down to practice on Thursday, hopped in. I had done that swim before, but with a wetsuit, and I was like, we're going to do it without a wetsuit this year because I've been swimming in the bay now for a while without a wetsuit. I built up the layer of yellow fat that the polar bears have, and I felt warm the whole way. It was good. I was slurring my words a bit when I got out, so I guess it was a bit colder than I realized, but I got in the sauna, and I headed down to practice after. It was great.
Dude, that's incredible. No wetsuit. Man, when Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon, they wear wetsuits, right?
You can, yeah, because for triathlons, you can wear a wetsuit, and it still counts. But for an open water swim to be officially certified, you actually can't wear a wetsuit unless the water temperature is under a certain level, and the bay is actually too warm for that. So it's possible to do without a wetsuit, which it is. You got to do it without a wetsuit. Did
you get a temperature on the bay that day?
I think it was in the high 50s or the low 60s. It varies from place to place. So as you're swimming, and it took me about half an hour, it was actually warmer. It was weird. It was warmer out by Alcatraz when I jumped in. And then as I'm getting closer to the city, just because of the way that the ocean currents work and everything, I just hit like this cold patch all of a sudden. You're like, whoa, what's going on? So it could be in the high 50s somewhere and the low 50s somewhere else. And I'll tell you that 1 degree makes a big difference in water. Man. You don't realize it in air, but in water, 1 or 2 degrees is a big, big difference.
Man, that's awesome. And jellyfish or no? No, there's not anything.
There were whales. We spotted some whales on our way out. I guess there's big gray whales in the bay that apparently are. My wife looked it up and she like freaked out after, and she's like, "Did you know that they're the size of a school bus?" And I didn't know that. I didn't see how big they were because you only see the top of them. I guess, and there are sharks, and there are a lot of seals, like a lot of seals and sea lions. I've actually had a seal many times swim with me in aquatic park. Like one time, I'm just swimming, doing my thing, and something just like rams me in the thigh. Like it hit me hard, and you're like, that gets your attention, and then I like stop swimming. I'm looking around. You're in a panic for a second, and all of a sudden the seal pops up and just starts looking at you. It's like a dog, and it just wants to play.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you're like, okay, well, it's just a seal. So then you start swimming, and the seal will actually swim with you. Like it will actually for like this. It was like a 10-minute thing. The seal was just swimming next to me for 10 minutes, which was really neat. The seals are nicer. The sea lions are kind of like bar bouncers, to where the sea lions can weigh like 600 pounds. So, and they're kind of like bar security in that if you try to like mess with them a little bit, they can get you, right? Man. So, they won't mess with you if you're smart, but I'm a little bit more careful when I see a sea lion.
I mean, we could go down. I know we're out of time, but like the difference between a seal and a sea lion is very difficult for the average person to tell, but you got the difference?
Size, right?
Is that it?
Size, yeah. The seal is going to be about my weight. Like a seal will be, I'm on like 210, so the seal I think is about 200. But the sea lion is about 3 times that.
Wow, that much more, man. No, man. Well, that's fun. I'm glad Marcus brought that up, man. That's awesome. We'll look for the piece in the Standard. All right, man. We appreciate it, and always love talking Niners with you. Keep reading you. Thanks, David.
Yeah, thanks, David.